Good evening, everyone. This is Nandesh Manangi. Just to organizer know that I have joined and waiting for the for the inauguration for the session to begin. We will give a couple of minutes for the participants to join. Then we can kickstart the session.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, sir. So, shall we start the program?
Yes, please go ahead.
So, thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all. I'm Dr. Juhi Yasmin, Assistant Professor of Communicative English, Department of CSE and AIML, and Cybersecurity, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Jain, deemed to be University. I'm here to welcome you all to today's Industry Connect session. Today's session is on AI and ML, and the title for the session is Building AI Models Using Deep Learning Applications. Today we have with us and esteemed guest speakers, Mr. Nandish Manangi. He has a 15 plus years of work experience at India's largest IT company, Analytics and Insights. He has also managed large scale innovation projects for North American retail CPG clients. And currently, he is involved in research consultation, business analysis, and data science projects. He has also worked as a data scientist for IBAC, International Association of Business Analytics and Certification. Mr. Manangi has earned his PhD degree in consumer analytics from Alliance University, Karnataka. Mr. Manangi has also completed his MBA in marketing from Swiss Business School at Cloten, Zurich in the year 2007. He pursued his BE in CS from VTU Karnataka in the year 2004. Sir, on behalf of the entire Jain family, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you and would like to thank you for taking out your precious hour to be spent with us. Our today's audiences, students of BTech, AI and ML, and BCS students, as well as our faculty members of the same department. So now I would like to invite Mr. Nandish to give us insights about the topic because he's having such a great experience in the IT industry, and we would like to request him to share his extensive knowledge and experiences with us. So, sir, please proceed.
Thank you, Juhi, for the wonderful introduction. So just so that we all are aligned, let me set the expectation for next 1 hour. So in today's learning, we are going to know more about Keras. It is one of the framework for AI and ML, and how that combination works with TensorFlow and Theano. Okay, so overall in next 1 hour, we are going to study about Keras with TensorFlow, and also we'll look into the Python programming, and I will show you how to build a model related to optical character recognition, and then followed by few of the best practices. Maybe if time permits, then I will take it up how AI and ML is being used in the agriculture industry, and how the business with agriculture and the manufacturers of different fertilizers have been using AI and ML to transform their businesses. And it will be for like 1 hour session. So if anyone has any questions in between, feel free to drop your message on the comment section. At the end of the session, I will keep 5 minutes to go through that questions and try to answer it. And also if time permits, then definitely I will take it up with the audience if they have any questions. And if someone wants to connect with me offline also, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn by typing in Nandish space Manangi, and you can reach out, and I will be happy to connect with you and discuss further and brainstorm based on mutual interest. Okay. With this, we'll begin our session today, and I'm very happy to be associated with Jain University, and I will do my best to give you the industry best practices and also bring you some of the solutions what have been happening in the IT industry in specific. Okay, so with that, we'll move ahead. First, as I said, we are going to learn about Keras today, and Keras is, and before that, I also assume that people have gone through few of the basics programming related to Python 3 programming, and they have little bit of neural network programming background also. If they don't have, that is fine, fair enough, because I do see BCA first semester students also joining this session. So even if they don't have so much of programming background also, that is fine. We will learn it as and when you go through this session. Okay. So first, to start with Keras, it's a high level framework for building neural networks with only few lines of code. As I said, we are not concentrating on the code or lines of programs or anything which related to function, all that. Okay. Our focus here today is to understand the framework, how it is being used in the industry, and also learn how that is being used for a deep learning networks. So that will be our focus today. So as I said, Keras is a high level framework, and it is mainly used for building neural networks with using few lines of code. Okay. And code can come from anywhere. If you want to use C, C++, or any third-party open source programs like Python, it is up to you how you want to blend that. But Keras mainly focuses on pre-built dictionaries, which you will find in popular frameworks. So in terms of the Keras, as I said, it works well with TensorFlow or Theano. Okay, these are the two backend dictionaries which will go well with the Keras, and we will look at it how that makes a difference. Okay, and why Keras is unique is this is most widely used in the industry because of one reason, that it has built-in dictionaries which will help seamlessly transition any business questions or a business issue or a problem into a proper step-by-step procedure to provide the solutions what industry is expecting, especially clients are in demand for that. And default settings in Keras are designed to give you a good result. As you said, first we used to use the waterfall model, wherein we used to go and do the documentation step by step and then look at the results where we want a desired outcome. But nowadays we have moved into agile technology, wherein we will not look into so much into the documentation purpose, but short sprints will help you in terms of giving you a result. And that is the need of the hour in the industry, how we have been progressing. So in that situation, in that kind of a methodology, Keras fits well in the current scenario. Moving on, the overall outcome, what we are going to learn today is how, like, for example, if you look at here, image, if you see here, this is just a picture image taken recently, and we will train the model to make sure that it understands using the labeling technique. AI and ML programming will be used to label this image. What does it mean to? And we need to see output as it should AI and ML, or the programming language, which I said OCR. OCR stands for optical character recognition. Using that programming, we have to make sure that our program reads this scene as a seashore, and that is what we are going to learn today. So this is just a pre-read or preset. And in case of anyone who has a question that how and where I can get this presentation, a PDF copy of the same has been already shared with Jatinder. So post today's session, you can find that copy for yourself, and you can go through it if in case you need to reread or use it for your future references. Okay. So now, as I said, Keras, it's kind of a front-end layer, and it works independently at the backend libraries, whether it is TensorFlow or Theano, and it supports multiple packs. For example, if you decide that normally people get into a issue wherein what should I use? I understand that by using Keras, I can do image classification or image recognition or even labeling for different images. That is given. In that scenario, some people always find it difficult whether I should go with one programming or one algorithm, or should be a combination and all that. So my suggestion to those candidates or those members who want to were stuck in that situation is there is no one step or one method or one algorithm for all solutions, right? You have to understand the business requirement first. What is the outcome you are looking at, and what type of data set you have. For example, if you have a balanced data set, it makes things easier. If it is an unbalanced data set and you have a lot of missing values, then obviously we have to go for unsupervised learning algorithms, which we have plenty. And based on that, our path also differs. Okay. So maybe using unsupervised learning, at least 20 to 25% of your overall dedicated or estimated time will go in cleaning up the data, getting the data set ready. But in a supervised learning where your data set is very clear, then obviously you will have a definite outcome of desired result, and also with accuracy what you want to drive out of that. So based on that, obviously decisions will change, algorithms or implementation will change. Let's see how that is going to work with Keras. So just I will give you the background. What is Theano and what is TensorFlow? To begin with Theano, normally in the industry, people might not know Theano what it is, but in the academic section, obviously this is from Montreal Institute of Learning Algorithms in Canada. So they are the first person in 2007 that they introduced this as a backend tool for Keras application. And a stable application was released with the version 1.05 on July 27, 2020. Okay. And this framework works well with Python. And there is one more programming CUDA, which works well with C++. And the developer and author, I have to mention the name Pila from the University of Montreal, so that a right citation is given to the person who authors this. And this Theano works well with Python, and also GPU acceleration is also given. What does this GPU acceleration means? Graphics process unit. For example, why Python is such a popular tool? Because of the simple reason, it can handle big data, and also it can give a GPU acceleration. That's a big difference, differentiator compared to any other enterprise frameworks or the programming tools or platforms as compared to Python. That's why the popularity and also the usage of that is higher. And more details related to that you can find out in GitHub if you are already a member, or if not, I would always suggest that go and become a member of GitHub as well as Kaggle. These are the major IT software developers community profiles wherein you can use these communities to know more what is happening in the industry. At the same time, you will get a handholding in terms of how to go about programming or how to go about picking up the problems, where you can find a easy, straightforward algorithms which can give you the results. As I said, I think in many of my seminars, I keep telling that GitHub is from Microsoft run community, and also you will find a lot of use cases there. At the same time, Kaggle is run by Google, wherein you will find a lot of use cases, and you can take up the championship if you want to challenge yourself in terms of your learning. Moving on, we studied about Theano here, and in compared to TensorFlow, it is created by Google. If you remember AI.com, artificialintelligence.com, it started in 2017. Google started to keep TensorFlow as an open source, and they wanted to bring in a lot of developers onboarded in terms of driving this. And there was no easy way rather than having it open source. So Google from first hand itself, they have moved in an open source path in terms of driving this TensorFlow. And TensorFlow also provides GPU acceleration in terms of usage, and also supporting the data in their data frame. And the added advantage with TensorFlow is it gives you distributed computing. Distributed computing in the sense, in a literal meaning, wherein you can have your multiple softwares being run on different computers, whereas you can use TensorFlow as a common backend, and also you can use a single system in terms of running all that programs into a one program. So that is what distributed computing, what TensorFlow will give you added to your Theano. Now coming to the direct difference between the Theano and TensorFlow and when to use it. Obviously, for the academic purpose and also in terms of dictionaries and popularity, TensorFlow is very highly regarded and also used, especially in the academic section. Theano is again, as I said, it has got its own pace, but it is definitely catching up with the applications of TensorFlow. So we will be using TensorFlow in this course in today's session, but both are good choice. As I said, both goes well with Keras, and it's very easy to switch between them using Keras, and also with TensorFlow, as it has got ownership with the Google. It works well with the Google Cloud Platform, which is called as GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So it works very well. And also in terms of vision images, it works really well with TensorFlow. So based on the umbrella of applications, what we have and which company supports that, and also what kind of dictionaries get built, whether it is consumer focused Google or even enterprise focused Microsoft. It depends on what is that we are trying to solve. And based on that, we have to make a choice. So now, like when you look at these combinations, Keras plus TensorFlow gives you a very good combination in terms of creating AI models, which we are going to look at now. So TensorFlow alone will give you a low level of coding, wherein your text consumption on memory will be higher. And also it will give the programmer a more controller. As I said, step-by-step process in terms of waterfall model. It will give you very good. If you want to create number of layers can be easily created in a step-by-step, and also it will help well in terms of having annual maintenance on those programs. And writing more code, it might like sound like more code means the kind of complexity what the problem is solving might depend, but I would disagree to a certain extent, wherein as I said, the documentation along with the coding might create a larger text, but that is not the need of the hour. People or employees or the clients are looking for shorter codes, wherein the memory usage is lesser. At the same time, based on that, what is the processing speed and what kind of data set it can handle. Based on that, we will make a choice. But as a TensorFlow alone will give you this much control as a programmer, whereas Keras plus TensorFlow will give you a high level of programming, and the number of lines will be very less, which will result in lesser code and also the memory consumption. But also this will be helpful when you have a standard data set, and also it will help you with hold of samples, wherein your experimentation will be higher, number of iterations will be higher, but the code consumption will be less. So based on that, you can make a choice what you want to achieve out of it. For example, here we have downloaded a TensorFlow Cloud as TF, and as you said here, we have looked into the inputs. Inputs can come in terms of data sets or images what we want to input as a layer, and we have created layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 as separately. Okay, and the replicability part is very higher with TensorFlow. Once you create layer 1, then only the variables will change, the weights, bias in different layers, and that will be easy to recode. Maybe it might look a longer code, but the creation of it will take less time. So same way, this will be the length of the code if you look at the TensorFlow. But when you look at Keras equivalent code, then you will see very, very simple, straightforward codes where we are not defining the inputs and all that. It will be pre-built, and we are calling the same code here, what we see here, in the same sequential way. And we have used the same ReLU, rectified linear unit. And at the same time, we have used the loss function in terms of mean square error. And we have used the Adam optimizer. The same things which a lesser code using the dense function we have used here. Whereas here, the same layers have been created and same Adam optimizer has been used using the TensorFlow. So only you will see it is giving more control to the programmer in terms of what is the density and what is the image size they are looking at. The same thing here, ReLU has been used in terms of creating that activation function. Similarly, when to choose the TensorFlow is when you are researching on a new type of machine learning models. When your machine learning model is new and you're doing exploratory data analysis, in the sense you don't know the output of it, and you are using mixed method models wherein you are using both qualitative and quantitative techniques in terms of the data set, and more or less it will be unbalanced set wherein you are using a unsupervised or semi-supervised learning models. In that case, TensorFlow will help you in terms of learning model or training the models. And when you are building a large system to support many users, when you know that the usage of that application is very high and you are more concentrated on the supporting proficiency of the application, then obviously you will use TensorFlow. And in terms of if processing and memory efficiency is important for you than the lines of code, obviously TensorFlow holds good in terms of applications, especially in the industry. Now, when to choose Keras? Obviously, Keras with alone helps you in the education field, wherein your data set is very much defined and it's a balanced data set, and your experimentation is very high in terms of iteration. And also you are using prototyping, in the sense you are creating a proof of concept wherein your environment is assumed and defined. In that case, obviously Keras alone will help you instead of using TensorFlow or Theano. And normally these are used for production systems where highly specialized requirements or environment is not required, and it is more of a closed R&D related or research or design related environments. And when you know the balanced data set, then Keras alone will help. So now with this background, we will look into one model here and try to understand how we are going to build it. Okay, so we will do model building for deep learning applications. So with that, as I said, we have to go step by step. As I said, the first step in any of the model building is understanding the meeting business requirements. In the sense, here normally a business analyst sitting in a client location will always look into the next step in terms of innovation or efficiency or anything what is required for the business. So what is done is they will look at the existing business or process and what is that we need to identify as a repeating patterns. In the sense, any pattern which is repeating, there is a scope where we can use AI ML and automate that for the efficiency of the client, wherein we might increase the EBITDA margin, or we might reduce the redundancy what lies in the process, and that will help in terms of understanding the repeat patterns. Sometimes there will be a successful patterns also, there will be a failure patterns also. If successful patterns tells you 3 things, and obviously failure patterns will give you much more options than that. That is what we will understand in the business requirement. And also in the given big data environment, wherein data availability always varies in the sense it is very dynamic, and we don't know the flow of information and the duration or frequency of the information or data availability. In that case also, understanding the frequency of the data availability as an input is important. At the same time, to make sure that the format, in the sense, some data can come in XLS form, some can come in CSV form, some can come in PDF, or the images can differ between JPEG or PNG. So as I said, in the big data, the 3 V's are very important. One is volume in the sense the rate at which data is being captured. V2 in the sense velocity, means at the rate at which data comes into a data set. And V3 in the sense variety, in the sense data can come in different formats, and we need to have a platform wherein we need to absorb that as a data set as input, and we process with the algorithms. So that's why the big data come into picture, and these 3 V's will act as a data input for any business requirement. And obviously in terms of automation benefit, whether it is in terms of time savings or in terms of revenue generation for the client, is very important. And also data availability in terms of frequency. Once our data input is ready, and what will be the output frequency for that will also be important in terms of meeting the business requirement. Hence, it is very important before we go ahead with creating any AI models, we cannot have a model and try to fit in the business requirement. We should always have the business requirement first and try to find or build a model which is so customized and so imperative in terms of usage for that particular business issue. Then only value can be created using the algorithms. So now, as I said, in building applications, 2 things are important: gathering and leveraging the knowledge of different functions. At the same time, how best we can do the exploratory data analysis for the input data sets. So first, before we jump into the algorithms, I want to give you an umbrella of machine learning applications by type. As I said, the machine learning are primarily divided into 3 types: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Okay. Unsupervised learning, supervised learning and reinforcement learning will have further division. So for example, supervised learning will have image classification, customer retention, fraud detection, and diagnostics. Unsupervised has recommender systems, target marketing, and at the same time, reinforcement has all advanced learnings like gaming or any other reinforcement ranking like parking of censoring or self-driving car or skill set acquisition, all this. So this PPT is self-automated GIF file, wherein the type of applications are automated using the GIF synchronization. Okay, just a glance or a glimpse of how we can use the technology with Microsoft. Moving on. For example, I will take you one example. In my own company, we have associates put into a task wherein their daily operations is to look into the different billings, or especially in the BFSI sector. BFSI stands for banking, finance, and sales and insurance. So in this, most of the human capital is invested in terms of cross-checking or cross-validation of different checks, different bills. And in this AI/ML algorithms, wherein the character recognition, especially the digits, are used. So we are training different algorithms wherein human checks can be easily read, especially with the handwritings. Here, handwritings in terms of word expression of the total digits, that will be the important validation what we do in the industry. And most of the associates are deployed in this area to make sure the checks which are going to be cleared are flawless. And also to tell you that already algorithms have been deployed and we have achieved a rate of 98% success. The reason why I can easily say that our success is 100% in terms of AI/ML deployment, in terms of reading the optical characters. But at the moment, we still have human intervention to make sure that we are cross-checking even after the machine have done. And 98% is the service level agreement what we hold with the client to make sure that there is no penalty or fine regarding that SLA. However, so far it has been 1 year implementing this algorithm in the client business environment, and we are good at 100% so far. So this is one of the application what has been widely used, especially reading the digits and the wordings, and also cross-checking with the check owners and then clearing that. And all that has been automated. And in terms of public cloud offerings, what we have, normally people think only AWS or Azure are the only cloud of enterprises which are giving the offers, but it is not like that. We have Microsoft Azure at the top in terms of enterprise solutions, and we have Amazon Web Services as other alternative, which gives much more breadth and width in terms of handling the infrastructure as a service. And all these give IaaS, infrastructure as a service, or platform as a service. And also it also gives software as a service. All these companies like Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, and as I said, Google Cloud platforms, especially in the vision images. This is a very good platform. And we have something called IBM Watson also, which is in the foray in terms of usage of Watson Analytics, especially with Einstein. And also we have Chinese product here, Alibaba Cloud. And one big company which we are even missing is Salesforce. They are also very good in terms of cloud platforms. And there are many communities which are helping, especially the Tableau community, which we are using in the industry. So adding to the existing enterprises here, we also have Salesforce, who are doing a headwind in terms of offering infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or even software as a service for any data visualization, and also AI/ML programming for any desired outcome for the industry. Now, in terms of how 2022 look, we are just 15 days past 2022, but looking at the entire cloud-based machine learning environment, we see that in last 3 years, there has been an exponential growth. If you look at from 2019 to 20 and 21. So in this 2022, we are going to look at machine learning having a high percentage share of 65% among the all algorithms being used, and followed by deep learning, which is again very specific to machine intervention and algorithms, which is at 35%, and other applications related to cloud and infrastructure will follow in terms of around 28%. So that is the global share of the machine learning algorithms will be used based on last 3 years estimation. So now in terms of GCP, as I said, Google Cloud Platform, they follow 3-step method in terms of creating the AI models. One is BigQuery and data labeling. Data labeling is where most of the efforts have been put now. All the data sets or images, the classification is happening. They are adding a labeling to that so that the machine can easily understand that. And then it is also called setup as a second function, and the last one is on the maintenance part. Okay, so both are one and the same. The level, this is first setup time, and one time we do it for build and run, and maintenance is done for the continuous improvement. Hence, you will see the same steps, but it will be done on an annual basis as a maintenance, as a support function, whereas second step is done for a setup for the first time. So that will involve your deep learning, notebooks, training, prediction, and QP. So now, before we jump into any creating a model purpose, what we will do is, why we are using Python, because of the obvious reason, it uses less code, and you will have the advantage of using the pre-built libraries which Python 3, especially Python 3 gives you, using any of the Spider or Spark or even Jupyter Notebook, what you want to use. It is up to you based on the interface, but Python 3 will give you such pre-built-in libraries which you can use. And also it is very easy to learn. And also it is platform independent, whether you use Azure or you use AWS, it is up to you, but your program can be replicated easy. And also you get a massive community support for each of the vendors, whether it is Azure, AWS, or Salesforce, to support if you are stuck in any of the queries while running your applications. And creating model is a very simple 6-step process, wherein you will compute or build in the business requirements, then experiment, add in the data sets, you create the model, and then you are free to add the images, and then you do the deployment. So here we talk about how to train the AI models. You need to have a huge set of images for your understanding so that your model gets trained. Normally we used 80-20 rule, wherein 80% of the data set will be used to train the model, and 20% of your data set will be used to test the model or evaluate the model. So that is the 80-20, and this 20 data set is called as code of samples in any of the programming method. And based on that, we are going to train and then evaluate. And then prediction models, there are many prediction models. Nowadays, like last week, I was doing algorithms wherein we are going to use a logistic regression, where the data set is non-linear. And using the logistic regression and the sigmoid function, the predictions can be done between 0 and 1, where 0 is false and 1 is true for any kind of prediction based on more than 50% accuracy. So based on that only, all the predictive models are built, wherein we are using logistic regression for any non-linear data, and using the sigmoid function, your outcome of odds will be predicted. So based on that only, many of the algorithms, predictive algorithms are built, and based on that, outcomes have been designed. Same way, whether it is unsupervised data or supervised data or any new added data in between, the feature extraction, which is also called as dimension reductionality in any of the machine learning, then the machine algorithms will be used and annotated, and then the predictive models are defined, and then grouping of objects will be done. So now we will look at one example wherein how a supervised learning can be done. Okay, so how it can be done? Let me open up. Python code and show you how a programming is done. I will open up Anaconda platform. So I assume that everyone are used to using Anaconda Python for your AI/ML programming. With that assumption, I will not spend much time. For those who have not familiarized with this, I will spend like 2 minutes telling you the utilities of the Anaconda project. So I'm using Microsoft Windows, and I have downloaded Anaconda Navigator. And this is the entire platform wherein you will get access to so many platform, whether it is R, Python, Jupyter Notebook, or anything if you are comfortable. Normally people use Spider or anything, but for me, my comfort lies with Jupyter Notebook. That is where I use most of my programming with the Python. So that gives a lot of flexibility for me. So before that, this is Jupyter Notebook I have opened here. For example, if you want to write a new program here, you can click here, and this gives you the fresh home page for your new notebook page. And if you want to create multiple lines for this, you have to use Shift and Enter. It will create multiple lines for your programming purpose. In terms of utility, this is very simple, easy to use, flexible, user-friendly tool as a platform in terms of writing Python programming. So it has got all the utilities what you need to open, print, download. Normally downloading is done using .md files. And if you want to have it in Python code or even HTML or in the PDF. It is up to you how you want to use it. And these are edit. If you are not so friendly with the keyboard, then you can always use these utilities, what you will find here. One important thing, this you will see cell and kernel here. Cell is, each of this table is called as cell. How we use it in different platforms. This each cell is called, each column is, or each row is called as cell. And to run this, we use Shift Enter as a programming to run that, or else you can just click on this and run it. Okay. So if you are in any of the row and you hit run, only that row will run. And if you want to run entire code all together at once, you can say run all or run above. For example, if I am in this row, anything above that. Normally, top-down approach is used for running any of the Python codes, wherein we go from top, wherein any dictionary import or any function activation, all that will be done at the top, and followed it is Python will take care that those dataset dictionaries or inbuilt pre-built algorithms will be used to run your programs. And kernel is very important, wherein kernel is the heart of the Python programming using this Jupyter notebook. If any new dictionaries or pre-built algorithms you are using, then you have to restart to make sure that kernel understands that you have downloaded that Keras application in your notebook. So normally we use OverStack Flow as a general reckoner to go to learning anything if you want to install. Normally we will use pip install to run any of the code. I will tell you how that works. So before that, let me finish these two slides and tell you how we are going to write the code. So that will give you enough of understanding. Hope everyone is clear and familiarized with. And I spent 2 minutes just to make sure that those who are new to the Python understand this, how it works. And for this, for example, if you download anything, knowing your current directory is very important. So what we do is, I type it pwd and shift enter. It will tell you where my current dictionary is or current libraries are kept. For example, C drive users Nandi, that is the folder created for any of, for example, I went into C drive, and in that there is users. Okay. And this laptop is used only by me. If in case it's a shared laptop between multiple users, obviously you will have different users. For example, since it is proprietary and used by only me, you will see only one folder here. If there are multiple users and multiple login, then obviously you will have multiple users login here. And here there are only two. One is mine, Nandi, and the other one is public. So under C drive, under users, under Nandi, I do a lot of coding in last 3 to 4 years. Whatever I have done, it will keep storing, and I keep deleting whenever I run out of memory or space. So whatever I want to do as a data set, I will first drop a data set here and then do the programming there. That is one of the way. There are multiple ways of handling data set, or you can give the path here only whenever you are using the data set. It is up to you, but I find that comfortable doing it, and I'm used to doing that for 3 to 4 years now. Okay, so this is the head startup in terms of Jupyter Notebook. So let me quickly run you through the supervised learning. So these two slides I will complete, and then I will look into the coding part of it. So now coming to the supervised learning, why I'm using supervised learning is because for the demo purpose, I'm going to take 1 or 2 images from the Google and then show you how to read that as a character or build the model. So hence I am sticking myself to a supervised learning for the training purpose for today. Otherwise, we can pick and choose any unsupervised learning. And instead of using any NLP kit or any NLP natural language processing, we can use convolution neural network based on the need. But for the demo purpose today, in this session, I'm going by supervised learning. And this supervised learning AI model will help you to where computer learns how to perform the function by looking at labeling the training data. So we are trying to label the images here and create an AI model. And that training is very simple. So I will show you how to do it also. First, we'll download many Google images and then train the data. And we call something called feature vectors. Features is a dimension, and vector is the vectorization which is used in Python. And we have something called SVM, support vector machine, as algorithm, which is widely used in the industry. These are advanced supervised learning models wherein tokenization or vectorization is required. Tokenization is nothing but you are going to identify an image and give a token number to it. Token number 1, 2, based on how much your data set has or how many images you want to process. Processing time is almost seamless, but the machine will give you the token numbers for each of the images. And once the image tokenization is done, then we will do vectorization in terms of labeling that data, and entire that has been that will be handled by support vector machines as an algorithm, and then we will create an AI model. Okay, so with that, what we are going to do is we will have images as an input here, which is the input layer, and we will create two layers here. One is tokenization, the other one is vectorization, and based on the complexity of your algorithm and how accurate you want your output, based on that multiple layers will be created, but we are sticking to only two layers creation, and the outer output layer will give you the text which is read out of the image. So that is what we will look into it in today's session. So now we will look into one use case here, image to text conversion, and I'm going to use Keras optical character recognition as a algorithm or a model here. Okay, so here please be with me. I will take you through the code first, and then I will run the Python code for you. Okay, so here you are looking into Jupyter Notebook Python 3 script for Keras OCR. OCR stands for optical character recognition. This I showed you here, optical character recognition. Okay, so here if you see, this much code written here is enough using Keras and TensorFlow and to get your model built. But for that, so far in this session, I have taken you through Keras as a framework. Then I have told you why Keras is unique, and then how TensorFlow and Theano differs. And based on that, what is that we are trying to create a model here is optical character recognition, wherein from an image, we are going to extract the text and then show it to you with the annotation. So for that, we have to install Keras OCR as a inbuilt dictionaries. For that, in Python, we will use pip install. This is the normal methodology which is used with an exclamatory. And then we will install Keras OCR. And then using Keras, once the installation is done, we will import Keras OCR into the Python library or into the Python 3 programming. And then we will write this code. The pipeline is a variable here, which I'm creating here, and that will help you to read the OCR. So pipeline is a variable. Using Keras OCR, we will create a pipeline as a variable and this line. And within this pipeline, you will get, first I will take you through this, and then I will tell you how to do that in the Python. So we are creating a variable Python, and for us, image is a data set as an input. As I showed in the previous slide, we are creating an input layer, and images will be my one more variable, wherein I will use OCR tools to read the images. And normally in the companies, the code is written in the URL. Instead of URL, we will add pictures, and then we'll use a for loop function to read that URL using the OCR tools. Once this is done, then we will use matplotlib and try to read that image first and set a figure size. In the sense, different PNG, different JPEG files will have different size and different images. We have to bring that size into a common size. For that, we will use matplotlib, which is a data visualization pre-dictionary built-in available in the Python programming. And using that, we'll fix the size, and then we will read the image show as a function, and then we will look at the images just to make sure that whatever the image we have brought into the Python programming, it is read. So once that is done, length of images will only tell you how many number of images are there in the Python programming. Okay, so for example, we can go with 1, 2, 3 based on our interest and how much we want to read. Based on that, we can make a choice. And length of images will only give you how many images have been brought into the Python using the input layer. Next, we are going to use prediction group. What is this prediction group? Prediction group is a variable. Again, I have called it. Using the pipeline, I'm using the recognize as activation function. And what is that we are trying to recognize is the images. So, okay. So this pipeline function here, this is the explanation of the pipeline function. pipeline function has got 3 arguments, in the sense detector, recognizer, scaler, and max size. So what is detector is doing is it will find the image, and recognizer will read the image. The scale of 2 or scaling will help you to fit the image into the Python programming in that set. And the maximum size we can set in the Python is 2048 at the point in time. Okay. And this is called as wrapper for the combination of detector and recognizer. So that is what pipeline OCR pipeline function or activation function will give us, which we'll look into it in the Python programming in now. So after that, once I have called prediction group, I will only use access here using the for loop function, image, and then prediction. So we have got 3 variables created, and we are going to call that using this one line code, which is used in Python. So essentially all that what we did is only to bring in the image into the Python and fit that into the Python programming. Now using Keras OCR tool, draw annotation, we are going to validate the same image with itself to give you the prediction or text out of the image. So essentially this is the function which will help you in terms of reading the text out of the images, whereas this step will give you the installation of Keras OCR. Pipeline function is a variable which I have called to read this, detect, recognize, and scale. And then matplotlib will give you to fit the image and give you the image into the Python. And prediction group will read that image and convert that into text. So this is the entire code, which is very simple and straightforward, and we will run this now in the Python program. Okay, so I was here in this. For your image to text conversion, I will upload this. Okay, this is the home page what I have come in, and I have trying to upload the existing code which I have run it in the interest of the time. So I'm just bringing that into my Python notebook, then overwriting it, and then I will just look at last modified. So, and I'm doing a double click here so that I'm into that page. Okay, let's do parallelly. I will use this also, and let me open up the new program so that everyone understands that. I don't want to hurry up and show you. So let's parallelly create one. So what I'm trying to do is the same program which we have done here. So I will, instead of typing all that, I will just use. So here in the title, I can say that demo on Keras OCR image to text conversion. I'm rebranded it, and I'm going to just have entered shift enter, so that, see, that is the advantage of Python. It is very quick and very fast. Then I will import Keras into the OCR. Okay. Okay, it is importing Keras OCR. Once as I said just a couple of minutes earlier, that we are using top to bottom approach. So here we have only installed Keras OCR using the pip install, and this pip install, you can find it here. How to, in normally, like how programmer goes to Google, we go to Stack Overflow, how to install Keras in Python programming, or Keras using Python. Installing Theana and Keras. These are easy references which you can find out. So see, pip install Keras TensorFlow. So based on what you want to achieve and what you want to install, you can create it. And Stack Overflow is the website or go-to website where it will help you do that. So we were here, I have installed Keras and I have used import OCR. And then let me go to the slide. And now I'm going to call this pipeline variable. Okay, so pipeline variable Control V. So pipeline is a variable, Keras OCR pipeline is the function. Now let's see, I'm using Shift plus Tab to understand the dictionaries. Okay, so I will look into it, and now see it is init signature. Keras OCR as a pipeline. As I said, it has got detector, recognizer, scale, and max size. So I have got 2048 as of this thing, maximum fit size of the image. So we are using detector, recognizer, and scale, and using the pipeline as a function, activation function, we are using it. So these are the arguments, and you can see that currently my dictionaries are done at the niche and Keras OCR pipeline as a Python program. Okay, so we are good on this. Let me run this for you. So it is looking for Keras. Okay, okay, this is done. Now the interesting part is, now look at this. So here we are trying to input images here. Okay, so for any images to be read, okay, here, so let me bring this code into that. But the thing is, we don't have images yet. So for the training purpose, let me use any images which I have already have, rather than spending time. Let's look at view large icons. Okay, there are a few images. Let me take this chemistry as JPG. This image, let me open it for you. So this has got, this is the image textbook. There is a text in that, but in the image format. Let me look at the file. This is in JPEG format. Okay, so that is fair enough. So let me copy this and put it in my, okay, I will show you the way how you have to go to the C drive, go to your users, go to your current directory and paste it here. So you have your chemistry JPEG file already here. So let me go to the program file, and here in the images, we are trying to read. There is an intent function problem might come, so that you are not surprised. Let me go to the list format, take the same name along with JPEG and have it for you. Okay, so come here. See here, always you should be very careful. You can use double or single, it's up to you, and bracket should be proper. Whether you want to use double quotes or is up to you. Normally we go with normal for you. Okay, so it has taken the image. So now what we did is, using the images, Keras OCR tools to read that image, we have brought that image into this Python, this workbook. Okay, so now we have read that. So now going into the length of the images. Length of the images, I told you, it will only give you the count of it. For example, let's say I will, let's run this so that for your understanding. So there are only one image already bought here. So let me put one more image. For example, I will use, okay, so here I will bring in one more image for your understanding. Let's do the same thing and take up this big data as a sample PNG. Okay, I'm taking one JPEG sample and now I'm taking one PNG sample. So let me have this here. Sorry. Okay. Rename. Copy this. And then I'm just bringing that here. So I will run this again and I will run this again. See, now two images have come in. Okay, it makes sense. So it is up to you how many images you want to bring in. Now we'll go to this matplotlib and read that image into the Python program. So I'm importing the matplotlib pyplot as a PLT, and I'm using this 2048 and I'm fitting that image, and I'm showing the image 0. Okay, 0 means the first image, chemistry, and if I want to term it 1 for sample page, it is up to that, whatever. As of now, I have used the array and I'm calling the chemistry image. So let's see how it will read. Okay, see, now the same image has come here. Okay, so we have been very successful so far. Do the steps. I have installed Keras and I have bought in Keras OCR, and I've used the pipeline function to convert, detect, and recognize that. And I have added JPEG and sample PNG in this, and I'm reading only the the first one. If you want to read the second one, it's again up to you. It's just array. See, it read the big data. Okay, so it is up to us. So let me go back to this, which I want to show you the model. So now coming to the model itself. See, the prediction group model using the pipeline recognize read images, then putting the for function for ax image prediction, we will run this for us, which is AI model building for text to image conversion. Okay, no problem. Since I have done it multiple times, that function might not be coming. That is always a problem. We have to run it all together once because it has to read from the beginning. Okay, so I will run that again. This star mark says that it is supporting the GPU acceleration. Okay, so I spoke about GPU acceleration in a couple of slides earlier to the session. Okay, so now this is done. I'm using the same chemistry and PNG. The length of the image is this. It has read that. What? Now I'm using the prediction models around that. And now I'm using this. It is providing the GPU acceleration. Since we are talking about the big data, here I have given one JPEG file and one PNG file. Okay, JPEG file and PNG file, hence it is see, it has come here. See, now in this image, it is reading every text present here. Isn't it wow? Wherein it is reading every text what is available here and giving you the result. Make sense? So like that, whatever you want to build image to character recognition and all that, you can do it. This is the outcome. So this you can do it for multiple things and you can run it for yourself, find it. And once this is ready, that in whichever platform, for example, you can download this using Markdown method. And once your code is ready, then you can deploy it anywhere, whether it is Azure or AWS or anywhere you want. And you can replicate for n number of images. That's how using the AI models, and we are going to load into the artificial neural network, and we have used that using the Keras here. So far, you guys are with me? Makes sense? So I'm very sure this session has been very useful, and just using this much code, we were able to achieve the image to character recognition, and we converted the image, all the text which are available in the image, into a outcome. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you in the demo session, and I had kept one use case, and this use case for agriculture I will give you as a assignment or a post session read. You can do it, and if you have any questions, you can come back to me on LinkedIn, or otherwise my phone numbers are available in LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on WhatsApp or message. I will be happy to help. So this was the session. Let me go into the text if there are any questions or chat, or now you can ask your questions because I'm dot on time. So if anyone has any questions, please do ask me. I will be happy to answer. And I see there is no chat or questions being raised on this. Hope the session was useful.
Thank you, sir. And the session was really useful, and thank you for such an enlightening session. I'm sure everyone present here really valued the knowledge you shared and are the most appreciative of the session. So now our session is open for the discussion and questions. If anyone has any queries,
yeah, I see. Explain the plot. Plot is the most easy thing. I will go to that. See, here the plot function. What I'm showing here is, see, where is that? Yeah, this is very simple. We are importing matplotlib. It is data visualization pre-built dictionaries which is available within PyPlot, and we are calling a variable PLT. Very simple. That you can find it in Stack Overflow also. Let me go to the Google and tell you. You will learn in data visualization part. Stack Overflow. Okay, in this we will try to learn, for example, matplotlib. how to call variable in Matplotlib. So what I have done here is, I'm just telling you, you can ask your questions here also in the Stack workflow. What I'm trying to tell you here is, see, I'm using Matplot. I'm importing Matplot, which is a pre-built dictionary, which is available within PyPlot as a library. And I'm calling a variable plot, like how I called pipeline as a variable here. I used pipeline, and using the OCR pipeline, I use this algorithm being built. Similarly, Matplotlib, PLT is the normally used variable in the industry. You can use PT also, it is up to you. Calling variable is up to your choice. If you want to call only PT, PLT, or anything, it's up to you. And then I have picked the figure size. So this entire Matplotlib was required for me to read that image here. So whatever image I showed, it has to be read here and fit here, or else it will become so big that you will not be able to see it. So I have done that fit here using the Matplotlib. What was the other question? Sir, how can I work in real time? Can this work with computer vision camera modules? Yeah, it can work with anything. As long as you are able to fit that into the Python programming and you run it, it works. See, I said Python can handle big data. So it doesn't matter how big your data set is. You use Matplotlib and convert that and fit a size, and then it will read it for you. Not a problem at all. Understood. Okay. How to make machine learning algorithms? Yeah, this is the use case. It will take time. In 1 hour session, this will not be possible to explain you everything. Even if I do so, I don't think how much you can make learning out of it. So maybe I will keep it for any other session. Then we'll go through the methodology and then take you through. But it is there for your pre-read with Jatinder. The entire PDF has been shared, so you can learn for yourself. Otherwise, you can connect with me. I can disseminate the knowledge based on your time and availability. If you have a folder of images, how to pass them? There are many methods. You have to use arguments. You can give tokenization for that and give a serial number and then pass it on to this program. Or as I said, you can have multiple images inbuilt here using this URL. See, URL, I have used URL and then used a for function to call the image. You can use the URL and give the path of the website where you want. So all that is possible based on your interest and which image you want to do. Just be careful. Always take the permission from the website or the proprietor or the person whose image you are trying to convert that. So please be careful. And also I would always recommend that you take the permission or authentication of image what you are processing and then do it, just not to get into any uncalled troubles. Okay, great. Thanks for your question. Juhi, you can go ahead with your ending note.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. On this note, we have just entered the final moments of our session, and where I feel privileged to propose a vote of thanks. So first of all, I would like to thank our Department of CSE, AI and ML, and Cybersecurity and Futurist Technologies to conduct a wonderful event of Industry Connect, where our students with faculty members are fortunate to connect with eminent industry experts of various domains. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Jain, deemed to be university, and all the students, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Mr. Nandish Manangi to accept our invitation and for refurbishing our students with the best possible and upgraded education. And I must mention a deep sense of appreciation to our HOD, Dr. V. Vivek, for his constant support and motivation. I sincerely thank our team of motivated and hardworking faculty members to join this session. And I would like to thank our students for paying their valuable attention. And once again, I would like to thank all of you for joining this session. Thank you so much.
I'm honored and privileged to spend my time here with you. And also I appreciate for being the wonderful participants. And have a good rest of the evening and keep exploring your AI models for your deep learning applications. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.